Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Krishna Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, His Holiness Janananda Swami Maharaj. And all glories to the assembled Vaishnavi devotees. Devotees, we thank you all for being here as always. Today is Wednesday, the 11th day of June, 2025. And it's an honor that we have Maharaj with us today. Well, Maharaj needs no introduction. If you're here and you do not know Maharaj, then you probably should find yourself in a cave somewhere. Maharaj, without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen and then you take it over from here. Hare Krishna, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Sadhe Prabhu, glories to Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhivyevacha, Pranam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Wonderful to get this opportunity to associate with you and hear from Srila Prabhupada, from Srimad Bhagavatam, and so on. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Vicharine, Nirvasesha Sunyavadi, Paschatya Desha Tarine. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So it looks like we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3, Canto, Chapter 9, text number 22. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today's verse is the continuation of the chapter entitled The Prayers of Brahma, Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy. And Lord Brahma has been praying to the Lord, the object of his worship. This is the secret of his success, is that he's taking shelter of the Lord. He realizes he's not independent. He's not an independent creator. We may think that we have power. We may think that we have some intelligence, relatively speaking, but whatever we have is nothing other than whatever the mercy of the Lord has bestowed upon us. He's given us what we have. Otherwise, you could say we are a witness. We're a conscious witness. Whatever we have at our disposal, even our freedom, is a bestow upon us by the Supreme Lord. So he's the source of all qualities, all opulences, everything. So today's verse, we got the same verse. So yang samasta jagatam surit eka atma sadvena yanmadayate bhagavan bhagena tenaiva medvishamanus prishatadhyataham shrakshami purvavadima idang panata priyoso. And we can chant together. So yang samasta jagatam surideka atma satvena yan medayate bhagavan bhagena tenaiva medvishamanus prishatat yataham shrakshami purvavadidang panata priyoso. One more time. So yang samasta jagatam surideka atma satvena yan medayate bhagavan bhagena tenaiva medvishamanus prishatat yataham shrakshyami purvavadidam panato piyoso. Beautiful verse. Do we read the word for word? I'll have to just adjust things a little bit here. It's blocked. There we go. Synonyms. Srila Prabhupada always, amazing throughout all of his writings, you see, he always, every single Shastric state, not those which are not including with the original language, but in all the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ishopanishad, maybe one or two other texts, Srila Prabhupada has the word for word there. He considers it very important that we get a grasp of the word for word as well as just the verse. So we'll read through. Saha means he. Ayam refers to the Lord. Samasta Jagatam, of all the universes. Surit Ekaha, the one friend and philosopher. This word Surit, it comes up here and there that Krishna is, of course, the Suridam Sarabhutanam. He is the friend and well-wisher of all living entities. He's the real friend of Surit. Surit Krishna. Krishna is the friend of, because obviously everything comes from him, no matter what it is. It ultimately has its origin in Krishna. It's like our own creation, whatever we may consider our own creation, is usually very dear to us. It's natural. Mother creates, so it sees. Though ultimately that's not the case. But she creates a child, and the child is super dear to the mother. It's only natural. Mother is the best friend, especially as a son. She's the son to her is, her life and soul. Atma, the super soul, Satvena by the mode of goodness, Yat, one who, Midayate, causes happiness. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Bhagena, with six opulences, even the word Bhagavan itself contains in one sense the same basic meaning. One who is a reservoir of these six opulences, or possessor of these six opulences, and Bhagavan more specific. Opulence, Bhaga. Tena, by him. Eva, certainly. May, to me. Drisham, power of introspection. Seeing within. Drisham, the see within. Anuprishatat, let him give. Yata as, aham, I. Shami, will be able to create. Purvavat, as before. Idam, this universe. Panata, surrendered. Panati. Priyaha, dear. Aso, he the Lord. And Prabhupada's translation and purport. Let the Supreme Lord be merciful towards me. He is the one friend and soul of all living entities in the world, and he maintains all for their ultimate happiness by his six transcendental opulences. May he be merciful toward me, so that I, as before, may be empowered with the introspection to create. For I'm also one of the surrendered souls who are dear to the Lord. The purport by Srila Prabhupada. If you can scroll on. The Supreme Lord, Krishna, is the maintainer of all in both the transcendental and material worlds. He's a life and friend of all, because there is eternally natural affection and love between the living entities and the Lord. He is the one friend and well-wisher for all, and he is one without a second. The Lord maintains all the living entities everywhere by his six transcendental opulences, for which he is known as Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma prayed for his mercy, so he might be able to create universal affairs as he did before. Only by the Lord's causeless mercy could he create both material and spiritual personalities, like Marichi and Narada, respectively. Brahma prayed to the Lord because he is very much dear to the surrendered soul. The surrendered soul knows nothing but the Lord, and therefore the Lord is very affectionate towards him. End of purport. Hare Krishna. Wonderful. Meditation on the Lord's position as the friend, protector, support of everyone and everything, our well-wisher, and of course, surrendered soul. So as the living entity surrenders, then Krishna reciprocates accordingly. The government gives protection, you could say, to all living entities in different ways. In one sense, even the criminals, in one sense, are given shelter in the prison. Living entities were averse to the Lord. In one sense, it's a sign of the Lord's mercy and his love for the living entity too. He provides a facility for their insistent desires to try to enjoy separately from Krishna, to see themselves as Purush, or the enjoyer. And that subject matter, I think it will be coming up in subsequent verses, how the Lord, I see just by glancing at the next verse, is the benefactor of the surrendered souls. Surrendered or not surrendered, the Lord is still, you could say, a benefactor, because we're all his children, all of his parts and parcels. But I was thinking, in a little endeavor to prepare something to say, it's not my most spontaneous part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, if anything is, but I kind of backtracked a little bit and went in a slightly different angle of this request of Lord Brahma, to be empowered with the introspection to create. A very interesting subject matter. That little line, so that I, as before, may be empowered with the introspection to create. That ability to see from within. So we're going to try today. We'll just see how it goes. I mean, I'm not particularly organized with this, but we'll see how it goes. And we'll see what mercy Srila Prabhupada bestows upon us through his words, through his inspiration, through his compassion. Srimad Bhagavatam is, one could say, is a manifestation of the Lord's compassion also. So let's hear from Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm going to start, and you will find it very difficult to follow, but you might be able to do something. I don't know. It's up to you. But I'm going to go back to the first verse of this chapter, just to recap. And then we're going to go to one or two little statements. We ended off last month or the month before, I don't know when it was, whenever it was, with Sahadev Prabhu asking a question, I believe, amongst a few questions, that when did Maharaj Parikshit get the opportunity to speak to his mother, Uttara, subject matter which he'd heard from Shukadeva Goswami. It's an interesting topic which isn't absolutely defined. Its statement is there in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and both in the beginning and the end. We see that Maharaj Parikshit was speaking this subject matter to his mother, Uttara, after he heard it from Shukadeva Goswami. And what happened, from at least as far as I've heard from Gopi Puranadana Prabhu, the compiler of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita in English, at least the ISKCON edition. And he said that there was, after Shukadeva Goswami left, it said that Maharaj Parikshit, this is stated also in the Bhagavatam, sat down to fix his consciousness on, of course, the subject matter which he'd heard from Shukadeva, and fixing his mind on that until the appearance of the snake bird, which was to bite him and kill him. So there was a gap of time. It wasn't exactly boom at that moment. There was a gap of time. And it said that Uttara then, and there are different indications there, Mother Uttara came to that spot to see her son, obviously as his last few moments, practically natural. And she requested him to please speak to her the essence of what he'd heard. And that's understood to be it's like the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have the 4 seed verses in the Bhagavatam, which were given to Lord Brahma, maybe others too, but specifically those 4 from which the Srimad Bhagavatam has expanded. Srimad Bhagavatam is unlimited. So if we look at Brihad Bhagavatam, because some of you may have read it, it's quite extensive. It's not like a 10-minute summary. There is essential, you could say, essential objective goals according to one's relationship with Krishna are there throughout the text. And the ultimate goal, of course, of Braj Bhakti, of pure devotion, in Golok Vrindavan is there, which in one sense is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, for sure, at least for those who are on that path. You could say that's emphasized, but there's a lot of topics, a lot of subject. Whether or not Sanatana Goswami expanded specific points which Parikshit Maharaj shared with his mother, or Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu said that, we see in Krishna's pastimes, for instance, even the Bhagavad Gita, when you come to think of it, there they are on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The battle is just about to begin. And Arjuna, as you read in the Gita, he stops just as the battle is about to begin, and he addresses Krishna with some questions. Please show me who's assembled here, and so on. And then, having seen who's assembled, Arjuna becomes very perplexed, just like he did when he saw the universal form. He became perplexed. And then Krishna speaks the Bhagavad Gita. Now, it's kind of hard to imagine how that took place in a few, moments, or was the battle delayed for an hour or two? So how was it? How did this happen? So maybe in a similar way to, as we mentioned last time, chronology, time, and all these factors are not taken as the most essential point of the subject matter. But still, Gopi Pranadhara Prabhu mentioned, just like in Krishna's pastimes, time will be expanding and retracting. What we see on our relative perception is one thing. But what happens is like Lord Brahma. He meditated for a long time. Well, we may hear about that in a moment. But time kind of it's a relative feature which can expand and retract in different situations. So 1 minute on this platform, on our plane, just like when Brahma stole the calves and cowherd boys, 1 moment of his time, and 1 year had passed in earth times. A lot took place in that 1 moment. What took place in Brahma's life in that 1 moment is another thing. It's the flash of an eyelid. But on the earth plane, many things took place. It's a different relativity time. So he said that time expanded, at least from the earth perspective. It expanded so that Maharaj Pariksit could inform or speak the topics to his mother. Again, you see that these topics of Brihad Bhagavatamrita are not, in one sense, easy to correlate with the exact thread of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's obviously some correlations there in many areas, but not in a strict sense of the term. It's a transcendental journey. You could say through different planes of achievement, different planes of conscious involvement, up to the highest plane of realizing. You don't have to go anywhere. Everything's already where you are. Krishna's everywhere. Krishna's in the heart. He is wherever his pure devotee is. So, the Bhagavatam, of course, deals with that, but it's a lot. The topics of Bhagavatam are so varied and so vast. At one point in intention, no doubt, but you wouldn't catch the thread. The thread is, what is the purpose? What is the objective goal? When preaching Bhagavatam, as we hear, and the Bhagavatam was recited in different places, not just in Naimisharanya. Recited at different times by different sages, and different aspects would have been recounted. This particular Srimad Bhagavatam, compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, was the subject matter of the forest of Naimisharanya, with the sages and Sutta Goswami. In other places, it may have been slightly different. The objective goal is the same: the glorification of the personality of Godhead. And we hear in the heavenly planets that the quantitative nature of Srimad Bhagavatam is much greater. Many more verses. Some places it's more or less, 18,000 verses, or less, or more. But the subject matter is the essence, the essential purpose to be reached. The purpose of Bhagavatam is to come to the ultimate perfection of pure love of Krishna, in whatever form it takes. Same with Bhagavatamrita, the same point is Inga. So in one sense, it's the essence. So that's a little bit about the subject of Bhagavatam spoken by Parikshit to Uttara. But we'll go back to today's subject, which is related in a sense, this relative time and space, which is beyond. These are, you could say, in one sense, transcendental, but in another sense, they're relative. Material subjects. Lord Brahma's role in this material creation as a secondary creator of Visharga is taking shelter of the original. Thank you, bro. Just getting a charger of the original creator, Krishna, Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu, the original creator of the material energy, you could say, universes, and his expansion into each universe is Garbhodaksha. So we can read, I don't know if we can, it depends whether it's still on my screen or not. This is actually from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita about Lord Brahma. The Mahapurush, this is Brihad Bhagavatamrita 1-2-34, whatever that means. The Mahapurush, the thousand-headed form of the Lord, is always directly visible on Brahma's planet, personally accepting the countless oblations offered him, and thus always giving delight to his devotees. So that thousand-headed form of the Lord, that will probably come up later. It's usually referred, this Mahapurush form, is usually referred to sometimes Garbhodak Shai Vishnu, sometimes Shiradak, but usually Garbhodak. It's Mahapurush form of the second Purusha avatar, Vishnu being the first. Let's see what it says. At the beginning of each day of his life, this is a little commentary. At the beginning of each day of his life, Lord Brahma appoints qualified candidates to serve as Indra, the sages, the Prajapatis, and other demigods. Also, he protects the universe from chaos by establishing Vedic sacrifice and the social laws for individual classes of human beings. Thus, Brahma not only creates the universe, but maintains it as well. That's interesting. Indra also says that he destroys it because when Lord Brahma goes to sleep at night, a break in his meditation partially devastates the universe. I'm not going to read the whole purport, it's very long, and even discusses Hiranyakashipu and his prayers to Lord Brahma in the same vein as these ones. Lord Brahma, even Narada Muni, at one point was wondering whether Lord Brahma is the absolute truth in full, is the original creator. Now, Lord Brahma knows he's not, and he prays that he will always remain in that condition. that he will always be in this state that remembering that he's a humble, surrendered servant of the Supreme Lord, performing his necessary duty, becoming empowered. Many of you, not many online, but some of you online may have had ladies, you may have a child, husband and wife. They undergo various austerities in order to have a child. We see this is quite common throughout the history, at least of the Vedas, in terms of proper procreation. It was very important. Lord Brahma made this a very important point, that procreation, Prajapatis and so on, they should procreate to produce good progeny, good offspring. And serious devotees, they try to follow the system. They may chant 64 rounds or, do certain things, certain austerities, whatever it may be on that day that they intend to, conceive of a child. They may fast from certain things, whatever, prayer, and so on. They should refrain from certain activities or thoughts, etc., so that their consciousness is clearer, more focused on Krishna. It's a penance. For the ordinary person, procreation, creating a child, or whatever we wish to call it, is generally an act of negative cases. Negative cases, there's no thought, it just happens, which is often the case. But there's no real procedure other than that. Just maybe choosing a particular time according to the most likely time. But it's very materialistic. There's no penance involved as such. It's in fact totally sense gratification. Totally for sense gratification, no other reason. Whereas a devotee, when a devotee intends to have a child, it's for the service of the Lord, for the pleasure of the Lord, for the benefit of that child also, to give that spirit soul the opportunity to go back to Godhead. So they undergo some kind of penance, some kind of austerity. Here we see in this little comment, interestingly enough, that it's seen, and then people in general think that they're creating the child. They don't understand that behind that, nothing happens without the will of the Lord. They have no idea how it happens, let's face it. Somehow or another, a live child comes out. Positive cases. Nobody really knows how all this is going on and how the universe is going on. It's the will of the Lord behind Brahma. He's simply acting. It's not Brahma who's doing it. It's Lord Vishnu through Brahma. This is going on. He's empowered. It's the potency of Lord Vishnu, which is actually the active principle of the creation. And why through Lord Brahma? Because Lord Brahma, as this verse today says, is a surrendered soul. He's qualified. Now he's asking again for the introspection so that he can again meditate on, again, bringing the creation back to life. Now, it's interesting. So there's different statements on this, no doubt, about the position of Lord Brahma. No doubt in the very beginning, he sits on the stem, on the lotus, coming from the stem of Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and wonders, what's he doing there? What's happening? Where am I? It's darkness. It's quite a scary concept or meditation if you think about it. But some or other, that was his position, and he endeavored quite intensely to find out what the reason was and what the cause of this is. And of course, we hear that he heard two syllables, ta, pa. The word tapa. We'll come back to that a little bit later. But he made that, and it wasn't just tapa, but we will hear a little bit more about that later on. But he followed that instruction, introspection, deep introspection. The instruction he gave required deep austerity, deep introspection. And because of that, taking it very seriously and one-pointedly, devotional service to create the desired effect needs to be one pointed. Vyavasaya Pikabudhir Eke Kurunanda. Bahushakayanantascha, like that. In the intelligence of those, on this path is one. They're very focused. They have one goal, one objective. Everything is for that purpose. So Brahma, truly creation on behalf of the Lord, all the elements. Krishna is the actual creator of the elements. He's the provider. Brahma is like the engineer, the intelligence to know how to engineer the universe. Like an engineer, you give him a plan. He's got to have the ingredients, and then he'll draw up a structure and put that into shape. So Brahma's an engineer of the universe. So at the end of one day of the universe, of his life, then there's more or less a destruction up to Svargaloka, up to the highest planetary systems. Pretty much everything is engulfed in darkness and has to be reawoken. So Brahma's creation at the beginning of a day is understood generally not to be a complete creation. It's to reawaken that which is, or to bring to life that which is seemingly sleeping or inert or is retracted into, seedling form, whatever you want to call it. But it's to re-establish things as they are meant to be. And even to do that, he's depending upon the Supreme Lord, although he's already done it. He depends upon the Supreme Lord to again, as this verse says, again, exactly, that's not, remember what it said. So again, so as before, may be empowered with introspection to create. The Prabhupada, as before. So again, create, but it's to create in the sense to resurrect or to reform, whatever you want to call it, to bring things back into a live shape, bring the sages, especially mentioned here in Marichi and others, and the Prajapatis and others, to again bring them into action or to create them, so the whole thing can again go into gear. The whole universe can again be activated, and another day of Brahma begins. So he has a sort of a secondary creative principle there within himself as well. Anyway, one more to say about that. That's not what we want to talk about. Today we're going to talk about more of the introspective aspects. So I'm going to go back to the first verse of this chapter. I don't know. So I'm just going to read a few bits here and there, so I don't think it's worth putting it online. Lord Brahma said in the first chapter, "O my Lord, today, after many, many years of penance, I have come to know about you." And this is where we're going to really kick in, if we're allowed to, if Krishna wills. Because what does this mean to us? Are we going to start doing penance to become a Brahma ourselves or something? Are we going to do this so we can create kids? Are we going to do all of this so we can create a business or something else, a kingdom or something? What are we doing it for? What is that? What is that penance? And what is it meant for? I have come to know about you. So this is one key factor. After many years, many, many years of penance, Lord Brahma says, now I have come to know about you. It took a long time. Didn't happen overnight. We get pretty impatient sometimes. We don't get what we want. I calculated the other day, I've chanted more or less 1 billion names of Krishna known in the last 50 plus years, for all it's worth. So, it doesn't necessarily, you may think, God, you should be seeing Krishna by now or something. So then we have to look at what it really means, penance. It's not just an activity. The penance is another factor, which I think we'll hear about in a minute. In the purport, Prabhupada briefly says, he says in the purport, what I mean, it's a part of the purport. By acts of penance only was Lord Brahma able to see the Darbhakakshayi Vishnu, that Mahapurush. So he saw Garbhadakshayi. who's also described as Mahapurush. And by realization only could he understand the Lord as he is. By realization, not by theory, but by realization, the Lord revealed himself to the one he chooses. We're reading in Bhagavatam this morning how the Lord cannot be seen by study, by austerities, by meditation, by yoga and so on. He's only seen to the one he reveals himself to. So because Lord was pleased with Brahma's penance, he revealed himself. Because he was pleased with his penance, he empowered him with the capacity to recreate. Yeah, but I'm going to be moving off this verse before you get it up. Only Prabhupada says, only by penance can one appreciate the beauty and opulence of the Lord. Now that's a lovely statement, isn't it? I don't know how you're going to find that down the purport. I mean, the whole purport is beautiful, but I've just chosen a few snippets here and there. So that's one of my favorites. Only by penance can one appreciate the beauty and opulence of the Lord. It's not just by, hearing is a form of penance also, depending again on the nature of our hearing, how submissive our hearing is. Krishna reciprocates according to our surrender, according to our submission. So a beautiful verse, huh? Beautiful statement, rather, Prabhupada. Only by penance. So I think it's important to know what that penance is. If we want to, whether it's creating a universe, whether it's creating a child, or whether it's achieving the real objective of Lord Brahma, which is the darshan of the Lord, it's only by penance. Creation is a service, but why do we do service? It's to please the Lord. Ultimately, Prabhupada said, don't try to see Krishna act in a way that Krishna will see you. But the ultimate result of penance is that Krishna will reveal himself to the devotee. He's revealing himself at different levels, but in absolute sense, just like Bhagavatamrita, it takes one step to step to step to step to the highest platform of one's relationship with the Lord. So to re-establish oneself in one's eternal relationship with the Lord. And that was also gifted to Lord Brahma. He had a vision, as we know in this section of Bhagavatam. Krishna gave him a vision of the spiritual realm. He also told him, for instance, if we look at the pastime of Lord Brahma after Brahma Vimohan Lila, how the Lord told Brahma, you have to go back now to your post. You've seen my opulences. You've seen, what you wanted to see. But now you have to go back to your post and continue to officiate as Lord Brahma. And then after this lifetime, then you can enter into that spiritual realm as he's in the relationship of friend of the Lord, Sakiras. So you could enter into that realm in relationship with me. So I'm going to drop that verse now, so you don't need to put it on the screen. Whoever kindly is putting these things on, I think it's going to be a little difficult, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be choosing one or two snippets from here and there in the Shastras, and it's not like reading a purport, it's reading a line here, there, and whatever you want to call it. First, I'm going to go to the first canto. This is the fourth verse of the third chapter of the first canto. It's the beginning. Kind of interesting. Chapter is called the Krishna, the source of all incarnation. That's the knowledge which Brahma eventually understood. The devotees, this verse goes, the devotees with their perfect eyes see the transcendental form of the Purush, who has thousands of legs, thighs, arms, and faces. So it's along the same line as we hear in Bhagavatamrita, that seeing that Mahapurush, that great form of Lord Vishnu, the Mahapurush. All extraordinary. In that body there are thousands of heads, ears, eyes, and noses. They are decorated with thousands of helmets and earrings and are adorned with garlands. It's like the personality behind the cosmic, or the Rup. And when Arjuna saw that, he also saw Lord Vishnu, but he saw everything else also. But here you're getting like a personal darshan, that personal Lord, a formal one of the Lord's incarnations, the Purusha avatar. This form, the secondary manifestation of Purusha, so again it's confirmed Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, is the source and indestructible seed of multifarious incarnations within the universe. And from the particle and portions of this form, different living entities like demigods, men, and others are created. Whether it's Garbhodakshaya or Kshirodakshaya, it doesn't really matter. It's through the Purusha avatars that all the other avatars come, all the incarnations come. Prabhupada says in the purport, from Brahma, the other demigods like Daksha, Marichi, Manu, and many others become incarnated to generate living entities within the universe. So as you may create a couple of kids, they create a few kids. And this way, the tree, the family tree, the genealogy evolves. Nations evolve, communities evolve, cultures evolve. From Brahma. Actually, in one sense, everyone is a part of the Brahma Madhva Sampradaya, in one sense. Well, not positively. Most people are renegades, they're against it. But they're coming down from it. We're all, in that sense, we are all truly brothers and sisters under Lord Brahma, in one sense. Maybe not following him. We've come from him. So I'm going to put the first canto aside, just a little snippet, although there are many wonderful verses at the beginning of that chapter to introduce the various avatars. But now we're going to go to the second canto, and this is where the main subject lies. Saturday, Prabhu, what's our time frame?
Well, Maharaj, we try.
1 minute in the life of Lord Brahma, or even 1 second would take us way beyond our lifespan.
We try to think of it like a soccer game, 90 minutes. But
What game?
soccer,
Oh, soccer. We're playing soccer.
90 minutes.
90 minutes.
Yeah, but it depends. It depends on.
Well, this will be a crocker. So I'll go to the second canto by 90 minutes. So that's like 6:30-ish. My time. I don't know what time you've got, but about 45 minutes from now. Okay, well, there's a lot of subject to cover. We'll just see what comes up. Huh? I hope you don't mind. I'm taking a liberty here by going quite, you could say, deeply behind the scene here. And the subject I'm going to talk on, because Brahma wants that introspection. That real introspection is penance. It's not some kind of just thinking about, what you like to do or, something like that, meditating on nothing or speculating. It's a penance. And we heard what type of penance that is and what type of introspection was the cause or the you could say that which enabled Brahma to create, which is really important because the same principle applies no matter what it is. Our desire is to create a relationship or recreate a relationship with Krishna. Our desire is to maybe become empowered to preach the message of Lord Chaitanya. Our desire may, whatever, something within the realm of devotion at least. And without penance, it won't work. Penance is a penal word. It's not always taken as a very favorable word in many people, although people do undergo penance for material reasons. Everyone does. Studying, working, so many things to achieve material objectives. So there are two kinds of penance as we hear. So this is from the second canto, chapter 9, answers by citing the Lord's version. Another word for penance is tapa. Tapa is a Sanskrit word. Basically, it means austerity or penance. Tapa can also refer to suffering. So it is a kind of suffering. Tapa is obviously, it means in the sense of spiritual life, it means refraining from activities of selfish material sense gratification, putting them aside, controlling one's senses, and so on. It's a tapa. It's a penance. Even a student goes to college maybe 8 years or something, whatever, after 15 years of age, and the 8 years They study in order to get some job. It's a kind of a penance for a higher purpose. In the material world, people do it. What to speak of spiritual life? To achieve that higher purpose in the material world, some kind of penance is undergone at some point of time. So what to speak of in the spiritual realm? Penance must be there. So Prabhupada says, taking the path of tapa is the second birth of the desiring disciple. Think about that. Taking to the path of tapa. So we should know what tapa, what is that, tapa? We'll see. Thus, and as I say, I'm jumping around the purport here. Thus, Brahma was initiated by the Krishna mantra. Now, this is interesting. Brahma was not just, it wasn't just a word in the middle of nowhere, tapa. And what do you do with a word? Like, what am I supposed to do? Tap dance? What do you want me to do? Keep knocking on the door. What's going on here? What's he supposed to do? So he was actually initiated by the Krishna mantra. Brahma was initiated by Krishna, by Mahapurush, with the Krishna mantra. The Lord Krishna himself initiated him, and thus he became a Vaishnava, or a devotee of the Lord, before he was able to construct the huge universe. You think Krishna's going to give this role to a non-devotee to construct the universe? No way. You're going to give the role of constructing your house to the most trustworthy, reliable person if you can. So he's the greatest devotee in the universe. Well, he was the only one then, but the most qualified person is usually given that role. He's not an ordinary person by any means. Greatest devotee. Very great devotee of the Lord. So great that if there's not anyone qualified, the Lord himself takes that role. So you can imagine how important this role is. He's not just the creator of the universe, he's also the head of ours, the Sampradaya, which Lord Chaitanya chose to be in. Pretty big position. It is stated in Brahma Samhita that Lord Brahma was initiated into the 18-letter Krishna mantra. And that's in our Gayatri, actually, and Prabhupada says, which is generally accepted by all devotees of Lord Krishna. Yeah, the 18-syllable mantra. If you look at the Gayatri mantra, some of you have not received the Gayatri, so I won't say what it is. But it's the last but one of the Gayatri mantras. Normally said the Gopal mantra. It's 18-syllable mantra which he received because Gopal is his worshipable Lord. So he chants that mantra. That was what he was given at initiation. Prabhupada says, one who is thus initiated in a disciplic succession is able to achieve the same result or power of creation. Isn't that amazing? Maybe we don't want to be achieving the sense of material creation, but in terms of what was the real essence of that creation, that the Lord personally, and we read elsewhere, he shook him by the hand, he congratulated him, and so on and so forth. He revealed himself to him. The creation we want is to create pure devotion. Create that relationship, as we mentioned earlier, with the Lord. So that's through penance, but the penance is not self-imposed. The penance comes, as Lord Brahma's penance came from Krishna himself. He gave him the mantra and the lifestyle in order to achieve the result. Chanting of this holy mantra is the only shelter of the desireless pure devotee of the Lord. Simply by such tapasya or penance, Prabhupada says here, chanting the mantra, this is the tapasya, this is the penance, which gives the necessary result. Not that everyone has to have the same result as Brahma. He had a particular role. In other words, to get the fruition of one's duty through penance, whatever it may be, whatever a service may be. The devotee of the Lord achieves all perfections like Lord Brahma. Simply by such tapasya, taking shelter, in our case, of the holy name, taking actual shelter, not just mechanically, but actually taking shelter. In the next verse, Prabhupada says, in a similar thread, Krishna initiated Brahma because Brahma was willing to receive the initiation. That sounds rather simplistic. I mean, many people say, I want to get initiated. And they do everything they can to try to twist the arms of the authorities or the guru. Give me initiation. Well, what does it mean, What does it really mean? I've got a name. My guru is great. He's great. He's really good. He really likes me. He gives me what I want. He's really nice. I'm initiated. I'm a Brahmin. And what does initiation mean? I mean, technically speaking, the impregnation of transcendental knowledge within one's heart, the change of heart, the acceptance of the instruction of the spiritual master of their life and soul. You can find it from different angles in different ways, but it's not just a ceremony. It's not just some kind of official, recognition of some sort. It's actual accepting that the change of heart, accepting the change of life, making Krishna our objective instead of ourselves. Through the media of the pure devotees of the Lord, through initiation. And he was willing for that. He was willing to undergo whatever was necessary in the execution of his duty. That's initiation. The Lord can similarly initiate everyone who is inclined to have it. The Lord can initiate, how directly or indirectly, that's another thing. But ultimately, that initiation is the Lord. The Lord manifests within the heart. The Lord guides the living entity. He initiates the moves of that living entity when the living entity surrenders to his representative. Prabhupada further on goes down the purport. Brahma is the original spiritual master, and how the Srimad Bhagavatam is coming down by disciplic succession. And in order to receive the real message of Srimad Bhagavatam, this is not just another scripture. Srimad Bhagavatam is the most, of all the Vedic literatures, this is the cream, is the essence, the absolute essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. In order to receive them, as Prabhupada says in his poem, Mankane Bhagavat Dharma, if they understand this message, then they will be delivered. They'll be relieved from this material conditioning, Nityabhadas, and come to realize their spiritual nature. The real message of Srimad Bhagavatam, one should approach the current link or spiritual master in the chain of disciplic succession. I'm not sure what the current link means in most people's eyes, but from the English which we studied at school, it's a pretty clear statement what it means. The current link on a chain is the link which is at the end of the chain, you could say, which you can connect with. That's generally what it means. So here Prabhupada says one must connect with the current link or spiritual master in the chain of disciplic succession. After being initiated by the proper spiritual master in that chain of succession, one should engage himself in the discharge of tapasya, in the execution of devotional service. Notice the word tapasya, in the execution of devotional service. It doesn't just say devotional service. Tapasya, in the execution of devotional service. Surrendered, attitude, submission, the willingness to change, the willingness to be corrected, and so on. In the next verse, it said, Lord Brahma underwent penances, and we may be a little impatient here, but he underwent penances for 1,000 years by the calculation of the demigods. Well, that's probably a long time. I actually calculate it's approximately, I don't know. Yes, this is 1,000 of areas. Maybe 2 million, at least 2 million Earth years anyway. Prabhupada says 6 times 30 times 12 times 1,000. You can work it out, but I think it's around about 2 million. A rough estimate. But a long time. Do you imagine at initiation you get the instruction? You follow these regulated principles for 2 million years and chant Hare Krishna. And if your chanting is offenseless and pure, you may achieve the result. We're not on that level. We're not like, who was it, Mukunda? When Lord Chaitanya banished him because he was unchaste in his hearing, listening to different philosophies. I don't want to see that Mukunda anymore. Tell him he's not allowed to come near me. And Mukunda was devastated. All the devotees didn't know, wow, this is pretty intense. And then when the devotees went to see Mukunda, Mukunda was feeling very remorseful. And he said, can you please ask the Lord if I will ever be able to get his darshan again? And so they went to see him. And the Lord said, yeah, you can tell him that he can see me after 10 million lifetimes. Pretty intense. Huh? God, we can't imagine. What is that, you know? Oh, my goodness. I don't know what we would do. So they went back and told that to Mukunda. They were feeling, oh, this is terrible. He's such a wonderful devotee. He's this small little thing. And now it's such a heavy admonishment from the Lord. He went back, they went back to Mukunda, told him. And Mukunda started dancing in ecstasy. How merciful my Lord is. Only 10 million lifetimes. He was in ecstasy that he would again be able to get the Lord's darshan. So they told the Lord what he said, and then the Lord, of course, called him in immediately, bring him back right away. It's not a question of, it's a question of our attitude. It's not a mechanical thing. That's the tapasya. And Prabhupada says in the purport, and due to his correct vision, he made no distinction between the Lord and the Lord's instruction. You could say this is also related to a tapasya. There is no difference between the Lord and the sound vibration coming from him. So this may help us sometimes to focus on that sound vibration. And remembering it is not different than the Lord himself. The disciple, however, must be ready to execute the order of the bona fide spiritual master as Lord Brahma executed the instruction of his spiritual master, the Lord himself. Following the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the only duty of the disciple. This is a penance, isn't it? Following the order of the spiritual master. How deep you take that. But that's the first basic step, to follow the spiritual master's order. That's the penance. As Lord Brahma followed Krishna's order, tapa, and he underwent that tapa, meditating on that mantra which he received for millions of years of our time. Following in the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the only duty of the disciple, and this completely faithful execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the secret of success. That was the successor of Lord Brahma. He didn't hesitate, he didn't desist. He fixed his consciousness on that instruction, and without break, he executed it. It's nice here in Prabhupada says, Lord Brahma controlled his two grades of senses by means of sense perception and sense organs, because he had to engage such senses in the execution of the order of the Lord. And this is what it is. Devotional service means to engage our senses 100% in the service of the Lord. That's what it means. Whatever type of service is irrelevant. But to be fully engaged, Rishikena Rishikesha Bhakti Seva Uchite, in the service of Rishikesh. Therefore, controlling the senses means engaging them in the transcendental service of the Lord. The Lord's order descends in disciplic succession through the bona fide spiritual master. And thus execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is factual control of the senses. Is made easy for us. I mean, Lord Brahma, he had to do it himself in one sense. There was no one around, just him. He just took it and just embraced those instructions on the words, accepting this as the Lord himself speaking, giving him direction to fulfill his purpose. Our purpose may not be the same in terms of duty, etc., but it's the same principle. Thus, the execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is factual control of the senses. Such execution of penance, that's what it is, controlling the senses and using them in Krishna's service. That is the penance. But fully, purely, not with any selfish motivation. such execution of penance in full faith and sincerity made Brahmaji so powerful that he became the creator of the universe. He became very powerful. Devotee becomes very powerful when he embraces those instructions, when he undergoes that serious penance. It wasn't like one day Brahma thought, oh, today I'll give a break. I need a break. I've been chanting this mantra for a long time now. I think I'll take a few days break. It's just, I deserve it after all. I've been doing it now for, and sometimes we think like that. I've been serving now for so many years. I need a break, Well, maybe we do break sometimes. That's another thing. But there's no break in devotional service. It's not like, oh, I do service on Sunday, I don't do it the rest of the week. I mean, some people may be at that stage, but that's not pure devotional service. Pure devotional service, is complete engagement of ourselves 24/7. That's the liberated platform. Next verse. Here we say, the personality of God is being very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma. He was very satisfied with him. In the purport, and that's the main thing. It's not a question of whether everyone else is satisfied. They may or may not, but Prabhupada said, even if they're not, if Krishna is satisfied, that's what counts. Not everyone can appreciate it. Maybe misunderstood. But Krishna understands one's intention, one's sincerity, purpose. That we don't have ulterior motives, etc. We're generally desiring to be initiated. We're generally desiring that change of heart, that change of perception. Putting Krishna in the center instead of ourselves. In the purport, Prabhupada says, there is undoubtedly trouble in executing penance. Just like devotees, they may go out, or they may get up early in the morning, probably use that example, early morning, cold showers sometimes in the winter, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock to wake the deities. It's kind of penance. I don't know how much you get paid for that, but we never used to get paid, by the way. Maybe you get paid nowadays, I don't know. But we never got paid when nobody even thought of the very idea of ever getting paid for devotional service. It was unheard of. It was like, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? But we know history, we know the evolvement of the movement and the need for maintaining devotees in various ways as the movement has grown. But the very concept of doing it because you're getting paid is not really devotional service. You may be maintained, you may need to, but you'll do it anyway. Paid or not paid, we'll do it. It's because that's our constitution. We're not doing it because we get money. It may be required, but that's not the real point. It's a penance. So devotees going out on the streets now. Some of you are in America, some of you are in Holland, some of you are in Germany, some of you are in England, some of you are elsewhere, in Portugal and Africa maybe, I don't know. Different places here and there. And you may go out on the streets sometimes. We're in France. And sometimes it's a penance, isn't it? Well, I was talking to one devotee today and he was mentioning that, a few weeks ago we were on Harinam in Paris and he was there, he was a guest. At that time he's living here now. But he said he was surprised that one guy came up and tried to beat me, I guess I was leading the kirtan. The devotees kind of intervened, but the guy wanted have a whack at us, It's a kind of penance. We don't need to go out the street and get whacked by crazy people. It does happen. We've been whacked a few times. It's a penance. You don't need it, but we do it service to Krishna. It's a penance to chant 16 rounds minimum. More of a penance to try to be attentive to those 16 rounds, which is the real next stage of the penance, is to try to hear the sound. That's the next step. Not just to chant, but to hear the sound. Then other things will come if we hear that tapa, if we hear that sound. Hare Krishna. That's our tapa. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada goes, executing Bhakti Yoga is exactly, what an interesting statement, exactly like sitting on the lotus sprouted out of the abdomen of the transcendental personality of Godhead. Same thing. Brahma sat there on the lotus, meditating on his mantra, performing tapasya, and we're going out on the street just trying to distribute books or chanting Hare Krishna or doing some service here and there. And the same thing, Prabhupada says, same thing. We jumped a few verses because then, although we're so pleased, he gave him that vision of the Vaikunthas. We'll go forward. Where should we go forward to? Here. Text number 19 of the chapter. And seeing Brahma present before him, the Lord accepted him as worthy to create living beings, to be controlled as he desired. Not the, oh, I don't mind being controlled according to my desire. No. Tapasya means to be controlled according to Krishna's desire, not how we desire. Likes and dislikes. We are the conscious living entities, but we're the enjoyed. We're not meant to be the enjoyer. We're meant to be enjoyed by the Lord. That's a tapasya. Anyone, however, Prabhupada says, preaching the mission of the Lord in the line of the Brahma Sampradaya is always dear to the Lord. And the Lord, being satisfied with such a preacher of the authorized bhakti cult, shakes hands with him in great satisfaction. The verse itself actually said how, because he was satisfied with Lord Brahma, the Lord shook him. In other commentaries, it says he touched him with his hand. The Prabhupada translates, he shook hands with Lord Brahma and addressed him thus. Krishna said, or the Lord said, I am very much pleased with your long accumulated penance with the desire for creation. Hardly am I pleased by the pseudo-mystics. I'm pleased with your penance. Penance is not just sitting down under the cold water, performing austerities, meditating on the impersonal Brahman and something else. But it's that penance you're doing, you just want to act for the will of the Lord. You're chanting for the pleasure of the Lord. You're chanting because you want to please the Lord. In the purport, Prabhupada says there are two kinds of penance, one for sense gratification, one for self-realization, that we've already discussed partly. Next verse, the ultimate benediction, the result of all penances, is to see me by realization, to see Krishna or to know Krishna, to realize Krishna. That's the ultimate benediction, the result of all penances, that realization of Krishna as he is. Next verse, this has been possible because of your submissive attitude, and this is the key word, submissive attitude, in the performance of severe penance according to my order. Next verse, such penance is my heart and soul, and therefore penance and I are non-different. It's his heart and soul. It's love. It's not just surrender, do what I say. This is love. This evolves into pure loving exchange. That is the Lord's heart. When the devotee comes to that level, that real penance, all our whole being is for the pleasure of the Lord. The penance by which one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face is to be understood as devotional service to the Lord and nothing else. Because only by discharging devotional service in transcendental love can one approach the Lord. In transcendental love, Premanjana Chuta Bhakti Vilochena. Priti Purvakam, Krishna uses the word Priti Purvakam, Desham Satatam Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam in the Bhagavad Gita. It is those who worship me with love, to come to that platform of love. And the stages of devotional service, of course. Yes. So it's love for Krishna, naturally detachment from everything else. The foolish devotee of the Lord, what is this here we're getting to? I think this is referring to if we have okay, we're still attached. Maybe we're not so detached from the world around us, our family, our position, our properties, and so on. Maybe still attached or to our perceptions. The foolish devotee of the Lord is thus put into forcible penance. So, voluntary or forcibly, if we want to progress, and if the Lord's kind, He will forcibly put us into penance by the grace of the Lord. And at the end, the devotee becomes perfectly happy being engaged in the service of the Lord. In other words, Krishna will take away everything. This is a manifestation of his mercy. If the devotee is hanging on there, Krishna will probably even write, this is a sign of the Lord's special mercy when he frustrates the devotee in his endeavor for Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. He frustrates. We don't make it, and we just have to surrender. It's a penance. Give up. Give up these other Sarva Dharma and Pratyek. This is the penance. Give it all up. Therefore, penance in devotional service of the Lord, either voluntary submission or by being forced by the Lord, is necessary for attaining perfection. And thus, such penance is the internal potency of the Lord. And the spiritual world is not like, people sitting around performing austerities, fasting, and trying to, realize themselves or develop, awaken their love of God. They already got it. So penance is in the spiritual world, in its internal nature, is the very interaction, it's the very relationship with the Supreme Personality, Rasa. It's loving relationship with no other intention other than bringing pleasure to Krishna. And it's reciprocal. And let's see how many more verses here. We've got one more verse. This will be the last verse. And I'm going to then finish off, if time allows. Yes, time allows, with some gorgeous verses from the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's see, where are we? Here we are. Therefore, only love and penance combined can please the Lord, and thus one is able to attain his complete mercy. I create this cosmos, Krishna says, by such penance. I maintain it by the same energy, and I withdraw it by the same energy. Therefore, the potential energy is penance only. And that's a pretty interesting statement, which isn't easy to really define. At least I don't find it very easy to define in practical terminology. Only when we turn the word penance into a more, let's say, loving expression, out of love for his parts and parcels, love for just basically love. He creates both the spiritual and material worlds, and he destroys the material world. Now there's different types of pralaya, and the one we're talking about here is not necessarily universal destruction, but the destruction of the curtain of illusion. Krishna removes that curtain of illusion out of love for his devotee reciprocating with him. It's not that Krishna has to sit down and meditate for billions of years in order to create the universe. It's not that kind of penance. What is that? Penance is devotion. It's bhakti, loving reciprocation. Therefore, he creates out of love unlimited facilities, unlimited living entities to reciprocate that love. I create the cosmos, we read. In the Purport, Prabhupada said, an easygoing life and attainment of perfection in transcendental realization cannot go together. The Lord is more clever than any living entity. Therefore, he wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. How much we really love the Lord is expressed through our dedication and sincerity, despite the challenges, despite the doubts, despite whatever may come its way, to hold on to the will of the Lord and to follow his instructions. The Lord wants to see how painstaking we are. This is a stage which leads to, naturally, the mercy of the Lord descending, or the Lord revealing himself in due course of time. The order is received from the Lord either directly or through the bona fide spiritual master, and to execute that order, however painstaking, is the severe type of penance. Well, it's nice penance, simply Sankirtan Yoga, chanting the holy names of Krishna and dancing in ecstasy. Not such a difficult one. But this is very sweet. This is in the subject matter of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. And most of you are familiar with Durvasa Muni and his apparent envy of Ambarish and trying to kill him, and then being chased by the Sudarshan Chakra, going here and there, trying to get relief from his pain. But nowhere could he get relief. He even went to Lord Narayan and appealed to him. And Lord Narayan said, sorry, mate. Sorry, buddy, if you're from America. Nothing I can do for you. I just say you have to go to Ambarish. I can't relieve you. You've offended him. And if you offend my devotee, man, you're in big trouble. You can offend me, that's one thing. But if you offend my dear devotee, you're in big trouble. There's nothing I can do to release you of that one. So then the Lord says to the Rasamuni, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent. Interesting, turning the wheel. I see someone's turning the wheel of their car. Krishna is now turning the wheel on the whole subject. Now he's completely dependent on his devotees, whereas the devotee is completely dependent on him. That's the penance. But Krishna's penance is he's completely dependent on his devotee. Completely. It says it here. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the core of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee? Even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. That was text 63. You can follow this if you want. It is a sequential series of verses with no comments. Ninth canto, chapter 4, text 63 on. Beautiful verses. Famous verses. I am not at all independent, Krishna says. Not at all. I'm completely under the control of my devotees. Just see. We don't consider ourselves devotees, but we do consider our spiritual master as devotee. O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons, for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences. They have no meaning. The whole purpose of all this is to, say, please his devotees, creating so many situations to bring pleasure to his devotees. Since pure devotees give up their homes, wives, children, relatives, riches, and even their lives simply to serve me, without any desire for material improvement in this life or in the next, how can I give up such devotees at any time? They've given up everything for me. How can I give them up at any time? They're completely dependent on me. I'm sold out to them. This is love. This is dependence. As chaste women bring their gentle husbands under control by service, the pure devotees who are equal to everyone and completely attached to me in the core of the heart bring me under their control. This is the penance is in the heart. External things may help to bring that about when we do them under the direction of a pure devotee in the right way. But to develop this within the heart is not for any external reason.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Could you please fix your camera? We cannot see your lotus face, please.
Is that better?
No.
Is that better?
A little more.
Is that better?
Jai! Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yes, Hare Krishna. No, no.
Oh? Okay.
Yeah, this is much better.
More focus. Is that
Yeah.
better?
Yes.
Getting better?
No, you're going out of focus.
Out of focus.
This is good. This is good.
Is it good?
Yes, Maharaj.
We often go out of focus in our penances, huh? We lose the focus.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Lose the thread. So now you kindly, by the mercy of devotees, we've been put back on track again. I see I've got a yellow hand up. What does that mean?
Well, I think you accidentally raised your hand.
I'm asking a question. Oh,
Mm.
it's gone now. There we go. I thought I was asking a question. Maybe that's what it was about. So now we go on to text 67. The verse purports, you must read in your own time if you want to. My devotees who are always satisfied to be engaged in my loving service are not interested even in the four principles of liberation, Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Shasti, although these are automatically achieved by their service. What then is to be said of such perishable happiness as elevation to the heavenly planet systems? And then the most famous verse probably in this whole series, Sarvodhiyam Mayam Sadhanam Mitayam Tyaham Adanyate na jananti nahum tebhyo managapi. The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anyone else but them. Amazing, huh? Krishna doesn't care. Of course, in his various expansions, the super soul, this one, that one, he's guiding everyone, he's aware of everything. But he himself, he's only interested in his pure devotees. He's only interested in pure love. And that's the heart of penance. And Brahmin, let me know, advise you for your own protection. Please hear from me. By offending Maharaja Ambarish, you have acted in self-envy. Therefore, you should go to him immediately without a moment's delay. One's so-called prowess, when employed against the devotees, certainly harms he who employs it. That is, the subject, not the object, who is harmed. So all the penances and whatever it is called in this material world simply cause our own suffering. Only this penance of going to the pure devotee, taking shelter of the pure devotee, taking guidance from the pure devotee, is the only penance which is a pleasing one to Krishna. Okay, we're on time, more or less, 6:20 something. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
I didn't really go into the subject matter of the verse too much, but it was related in terms of he wants to recreate and he's asking for the Lord's mercy so he can have the sufficient introspection to recreate, which is basically the original desire of Lord Brahma to perform his duty of universal creation. So it's related in that sense.
Thank you so much.
And also how dear the devotees are to the Lord, which was also part of it. Yes, so it is related. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. So, dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, realizations you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute. Excuse me, to ask your
If I
question.
can't answer the question, I'll disappear from the screen, okay? I can't answer any questions, to be honest. It's definitely something which with all the pride I've got at my disposal, I might think I can answer something, but sometimes even that's not enough. Anyway, we'll see. Krishna.
Well, Maharaj, I have one first question here. That is, we're reading and we understanding that Lord Brahma was born out of the lotus navel of the Supreme Lord. And because I'm a material being, I'm trying to understand how this happened based on what goes on within my world, within this material world. And that is, when I was born, and even before I was born, I was in my mother's womb, and whatever my mother was consuming, that was what was keeping me alive. So I was dependent on my mom. And when I was given birth to, when I was born, I was still connected to my mom through the umbilical cord until the umbilical cord got severed. And then I was no more physically connected to my mother.
Never the connection.
So my question is, Lord Brahma, at the top of the lotus navel of the Supreme Lord. That is how he was born. Is he still connected? Is he still connected to Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, or the umbilical cord of the Supreme Lord is severed? And if it is severed, does that mean that Lord Brahma is now on his own?
That's a really big boy, oh boy. I think the lotus was female. I think that was the answer there. A female lotus. Garbhodakshaya male. The lotus must have been, obviously. No, aside from that, what is that connection? What is the real connection? We're talking material spiritual here. Lord Brahma does not have a physical body like us, as we all know. It's got a subtle body. But what is that real connection? What is that connection? In the material world, everyone is connection with Krishna's cup. Everyone, isn't it? We're born in this material world. Chip, your connection, spiritual connection with Krishna's cup. Forget Krishna, right? You can't. You're born of Krishna, and chip, come into the material world, you forget that connection. We try to reconnect. The reconnection is there through the parampara. So he's connected to Krishna because he's still connected and always will be connected to Krishna through this particular line. And his business is to reconnect us, is turn the clock backwards or turn the system backwards. To reconnect is the important thing, not to cut the connection. We've already done that. That's been cut. Yes, you could say that cord, that line has been cut. Even sometimes in terms of the manifest form of that line is cut sometimes. And Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, because of that, he appears to reestablish that line. That's what sustains us. In the material world, we're being sustained, but it's like an orphan. Like an orphan is sustained. But the parampara, the disciplic succession, is coming down from Krishna. That's like the spiritual umbilical cord, which is nourishing us, giving us life, and bring us out of the womb, you could say, into the spiritual realm, out of the material womb. And once we've cut that connection with the material, then, you could say we're then eligible then to begin Brahmabhuta Prasnatmana Shochatina Kankshati, eligible to begin pure devotional service. We're just using play on words here, but you can get some idea maybe that we have this mundane or materialistic perception, you could say. So we're trying to use material kind of examples to try to give some idea how this works. It's not a physical thing. Lord Brahma is subtle, subtle form. It wasn't like he was born there with some physical kind of tube connected through the lotus down to Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Garbhodakshaya Vishnu with his Sudarshan chakra chops the umbilical cord off, and then Brahma's free. Hey, here I am. Well, that's what's happened to all of us in the material world in one sense. We've disconnected ourselves from the Lord Vishnu, or the Lord, and we're floating around in this material world thinking we're all Brahma. We all think we're Brahma, the Lord, the center, the enjoyer. We're all that Ishvara, that controlling Ishvara Bhava, or whatever you call it. We're all kind of floating around with that mentality because we have disconnected ourselves. Because we want to, we don't want to take that initiation, which is the connecting process. We still want to remain independent. We still want to remain separated, you would say, from the Lord, isn't it? So, what to do? Krishna reciprocates. He wants us to reconnect, but we don't want to. And Lord Brahma he wants to connect, therefore he was initiated. It appeared that he'd been disconnected, but he wants to connect. And thus Krishna initiates him. He follows that process and he's reconnected again. Anyway, I think some practical angle of vision. I don't know if you want to say any more on that. I don't see any physical, I don't have What are the names of the doctors who deliver babies? What do they call them? Gynecologist? No, what is it? What's it called? Here's Ananda Vrindavan. What they called?
Placenta?
What are they called? What's it?
Gynecologist, Maharaj?
I said it. I'm right, am I? Gynecologist. They're ones who deal with.
Gynecologist.
Yeah, you call them gynecologist. Call them gynecologist and gynecologist. Okay. Yeah. I haven't asked one. Maybe they can answer that question.
Well, there is a question in the chat room from Ananda Vrindavan Devi, and I have a
gynecologist.
Oh, okay. I have a follow-up question, but from her question, from Ananda Vrindavan's question, the question is there a relationship between penance and Srimati Radharani? If so, could you kindly explain?
Who?
Is there a relationship between penance and Srimati Radharani?
Penance?
Yes, penance.
I don't.
Tapa.
Oh, tapa.
Yes.
Penance. So I when you said Radharani, I was thinking of a person. Is there a relationship?
Srimati Radharani.
Yeah, of course there is.
And if there is, could you explain?
You see, the material world is perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Penance. What is that penance? Penance is unending love. It's pure love. In the material world, it's love for ourselves, love for our objective goals. We do things to achieve our objective goals. It's a form of perversion. In the spiritual world, the devotee will do anything. We get simple stories like when Krishna had his headache, and the gopis were, giving the dust of their lotus feet to Narada Muni to take to Krishna to cure his headache. They didn't care less if they went to hell or heaven. They don't care less. All that matters is Krishna. The penance. Everything they do is to bring pleasure to Krishna. The penance. The penance in this world is for their own selfish reasons. It's an active principle. I don't know how you can define it in English, where maybe there is a word which captures its meaning in that way. It's not just the suffering which is undergone. In the spiritual world, there is no such suffering as such. It's a penance. The Vipalamba Bhavas, you could say, is a penance when Krishna apparently separates himself from his eternal associates. And they're suffering. It's a penance.
Well, Maharaj, I said I have a follow-up question to Ananda Vrindavan Devi's question, because I had a question on penance. And, of course, English is not my first language.
What's your first language?
My first language is called Chi, which is Ghanaian language.
Ghana.
Okay. Yes, Maharaj. But I also understand that English language lacks in so many ways, trying to
understand
Sanskrit words. So tapa is translated as penance. And I just consulted the dictionary, and the definition of penance is not the same as austerity. And austerity, based on the activities going on between Gaudakshayi Vishnu and Lord Brahma, may very well be austerity rather than penance, because according to the dictionary definition of penance, means that one voluntarily decides to perform some severe activities just to atone for his sins. And if that is the case, I'm wondering, what sins did Lord Brahma commit? He had just been born of the Lord. And the Lord asks him to perform penance, which dictionary definition means to do something to atone for his sins. So I'm wondering, is it penance or is it austerity, the word tapa?
Well, everything is a matter of, as Prabhupada said, there are two kinds of penances, one for material, one for spiritual. So to atone for sin is a material penance.
Hmm.
It's a material austerity, material penance, call it what you will. I mean, we understand basically what we mean. And the words don't necessarily have the same meaning, but we understand what that means. You know, you have a personal reason. It's not for the pleasure of the Lord necessarily. You're just trying to get freed from suffering. You're trying to get freed from reactions to your sinful activity. But, you know, that's a different thing. The spiritual penance is to bring pleasure to the Lord. To get freed from sinful reactions is hardly pleasing to the Lord. And to give up sinful activity in itself is better than just to get free from the sinful reaction, no doubt. But it's still not the real penance that we're talking about here. Lord Brahma wants to be initiated by the Lord. He wants to be controlled. He wants to be, you know, empowered, guided, whatever it is, to fulfill the will of the Lord. Little difference. So that type of penance isn't to get free of sinful reaction. There isn't any as such, but it's to attain the objective purpose or the objective goal. And in this particular case, within this material framework of creativity, or in another level, the goal of attaining to the love of God. So it's, you can call it whatever you may call it. The word is used here, penance. Prabhupada uses the word penance. He doesn't use the word austerity in this case. But he uses the word penance, which is generally, as you say, because they have no spiritual understanding. Prabhupada uses this word in terms of spiritual connection, or what will help us to attain that spiritual connection, rather than just to undergo, you know, which is basically mostly on the platform of mundane religion, or whatever you wish to call it. It's mainly the point to get freed, undergo some penance in order to become freed of your sinful reactions. But that's not the purpose of the penance of a practicing devotee, and certainly wasn't the purpose of Lord Brahma, because as you say, he's not performed any activity as such. In his particular case, he's a pure devotee. There's not even any, it's not that he's turned against Krishna or something, you know what I mean? Because that's the original sin, you can say. He's actually wanting to turn towards Krishna. So that's the spiritual penance, is that which brings us closer to Krishna. And the other one takes us away from Krishna. So I see it's just two different types of austerity, penance, sacrifice, call it what you will. Brahma was devotional, and ours hopefully is becoming devotional. But for the materialistic person, it's completely material. Even if they are pious and they recognize that they are performing sinful activities, they recognize there's a supreme controller to some degree, but they still want to enjoy separately. Brahma didn't want to enjoy separately. He wasn't thinking of enjoying at all. He just wanted to know what the Lord's will is. What's the purpose? It's kind of selfless in that sense. Different type of tapa. Doesn't make any sense or not. Anything else?
Well, thank you so much, Maharaj. Anyone else with something to ask? Maharaj, I have one question. It's not directly related to today's theme or topic, but it is something that has come across my mind a couple of times, and I was actually reminded by it from yesterday's discussion. Of course, we speak Bhagavatam Monday through Friday here. So the speaker who spoke yesterday did mention something that I've been thinking about. That is, Lord Krishna wants us to call on him, to depend on him. And therefore, when Draupadi was being disrobed in the assembly hall, first of all, she tried to fight it herself. Then she called on her husbands. She called on Pitamaha, Bhishmadev, no help, until finally she had to call on Krishna. So I've heard from many speakers who say that no one can help you except Krishna. And therefore, don't cry on anyone, don't expect any help from anyone. But that seems contrary to how Krishna himself has designed this world, because Krishna has designed this world, and I'm reading from something from the Bhagavatam, if I may put it up here. And this is Bhagavatam 6:18, text 30.
Where is this from?
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6,
Okay.
Canto 6, chapter 18. Let me see, chapter 18, text 33, 34, and 35. So 6:18, 33, 34. It says, a husband is the supreme demigod for a woman. The supreme personality of Godhead, Lord Vasudeva, the husband of the goddess of fortune, is situated in everyone's heart and is worshipped through the various names and forms of the demigods by fruitive workers. Similarly, a husband represents the Lord as the object of worship for women. Now, in the purport, in India, husband is still called a Pati Guru, the husband, spiritual master. So, in this particular text, and also in the purport, as well as text 35 also, it is understood that the husband acts in the capacity of Lord Vishnu to the woman. And so if the woman is in trouble and cries out to the husband, why should Krishna take offense that this mother did not cry up to me? This lady cried up to her husband, and therefore I'm not coming in to help. What do we learn from this Leela? Does this really apply to us as mortal human beings?
Interesting. Well, let's see. Now, she cried out to her husbands. She cried out to Bhishma. No one came forward. You could say that are they performing their duty?
The husbands were performing their duties, but they were restricted in that moment because they were prepared to defend their wife, but they were restricted due to the circumstances.
Yeah, Dharma. The laws of Dharma in this material creation are very complex. They're not always easy. Even Bhishma talks about this. They're not always easy to ascertain. So there's, in one sense, even if the husband does take on his role naturally, we should expect. Bhishma, of course, we all know that Bhima they had to hold him back practically. He didn't care less about what other factors were involved. He was fuming. But ultimately, what is it? How does the husband protect the wife? And what does it mean to protect the wife? There are different levels of protection. If we're talking of just merely physical, yes, it's the duty of the husband. But where does everything come from? Ultimately, everything comes from Krishna. The ability, the responsibility, and so on. Everything is ultimately coming from Krishna. So the husband's ability or anyone's ability to protect anyone else. We read verses, for instance, in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaja's prayers that no one can really protect us, not even a doctor, not even a strong boat. Ultimately, only Krishna can protect us. So there, one sense, it said, as you rightly pointed out, that this appears to be rather, the wife is correct. Why should you have to call out to anyone else? She's calling out to her husbands, who are supposed to be like her God. Surely Krishna knows that. Why didn't he protect her there and then? Well, you know the story. You probably heard it more than me, but you've heard the story what happened in Dwarka at that time, isn't it? You've heard what happened when Krishna
I
went.
don't think so, Maharaj.
Well, anyway, even if you haven't, it's an interesting story, and I would say this particular incident is definitely a situation where Krishna uses his devotees to teach higher principles, spiritual dharma, not just material dharma or whatever, but pure dharma. In Dwarka, when Draupadi was being deroed by Dushasana and Karna, at that time Krishna was in Dwarka. And he was actually playing a game, we call it chess, but they played chess or whatever, some game with Rukmini. And Krishna was really distracted. He was just, just couldn't focus on what they were doing. So Rukmini asked him, what's going on here? What's wrong with you? He said, oh, one of my devotees is in great distress. So Rukmini says, well, why don't you do something about it? He said, I can't. Oh, okay. And they carry on, but he's totally distracted. And then all of a sudden, Krishna, is off to Hastinapura and manifests as an unending sari. So what happened? Well, he said, I couldn't help her because she was looking elsewhere for shelter. So there's a different example being given. It's true what you've read there about how the husband is like demigod or God on earth for the wife and so on. But at the same time, we have to understand that no one can protect us other than Krishna, ultimately. So as soon as she gave up all other Sarvadharma Pratyaga, then Krishna protected her. She gave up expecting protection. She realized that no one can really protect her in that particular situation. It's an example, so many different examples we can see in Shastra where it seems like this contrary behavior in certain situations to teach various lessons, to show, the ultimate purpose of it all, which is completely to surrender to Krishna, to take shelter of Krishna, to focus our hearts on Krishna. So I would see it like that Krishna is teaching a lesson in this way, that ultimately no one can protect us other than Krishna. We may try, but what is that protection? So you've got the protection according to the living entity's capacity to protect, physically, mentally, spiritually. But ultimately, no one can protect us. Only Krishna can deliver us from this world. Only Krishna can save us from fear. Only Krishna can save us from immaterial energy. That would be my take on that, but for all it's worth. It's an interesting story how Krishna couldn't do anything as long as she was trying to take shelter of other sources of protection. Only, as you say, when she gave up and just threw her hands up or whatever she did, she called out to Krishna, save me. They're ladies. Ambarish didn't call out to anyone to save him. A different situation, totally. Huh?
Yeah.
In one sense, it's got similarities, but it's different. The laws of Dharma are different in each case. And he didn't take shelter. He just took shelter of Krishna. He didn't ask for protection. I deserve this, It's a fire. If you so will, my Lord, let the fiery demon kill me. He had no, help. He wasn't in the mood of help. Of course, for a woman, it's not just for herself either. Now, Draupadi's appeal wasn't just on her own account, as a woman naturally tries to protect herself, but she was also thinking of the disgrace this is to my husband's, to our, our dynasty, everything. This is disgusting. This is disgraceful. This is, totally against all laws of Dharma. And, she was surprised, well, it could say whatever, that even Bhishma, personification practically of, piety and religiosity and what have you, but didn't do anything. So it was quite stunning, in a sense, that happened. Nothing happens without the will of the Lord. It was obviously the will of the Lord that this was going on. And that's the secret here, to understand the will of the Lord. Otherwise, what's the use, even if we're materially protected? So the real protection is the protection from our, let's say, seeing things separately from Krishna.
Well, thank you so much, Maharaj. This particular pastime and few more pastimes of the Lord and his devotees sometimes makes me think that some pastimes of the Lord and his devotees are more likely not meant for us, the conditioned souls, to learn anything from it. It is not meant for us. It is meant for the Supreme Lord and his pure devotees. One reason I am thinking like this, and I'm seeking your viewpoint from the scriptures and, of course, your realization and understanding, that we know Krishna is the Vedanta Krita. He is the end of Veda. He is the end of knowledge. He is the beginning, the end, the middle. And so if we want knowledge, he will be the right person to approach. Yet he himself says we should not approach him. We should go to his pure devotees. And therefore we go to the gurus. And the guru imparts the knowledge to us. And by that way, we can attain Krishna. So even though Krishna is the ultimate doer, Draupadi has her husbands. And so if she is in bad situation, she has to go to her husbands. And so if Krishna is saying that she has not called him, and so he is not going to intervene, I do not see why that should be the case. Second, it is also said that, well, I don't want to make it prolonged, but this is my basic understanding, and I'm seeking your confirmation or denunciation to it, that sometimes some of Krishna's pastimes are not meant for us, the conditioned souls, to learn anything from it. It's not meant for us. It's meant for his pleasure, his relationship with his pure devotees.
You mean the Rasa Leela is not meant for us?
I'm not saying the Rasa Leela is not meant for us, but thinking of Rupa Goswami having meditation and seeing Lord Krishna and Radha playing, and then a hunchback passes by, and then he giggles, and then his meditation is gone. And Sanatana Goswami is chastising him because you laughed at this. He wasn't laughing at him. And so sometimes we hear devotees say that if you offend someone, you lose your relationship, you lose your contact with Krishna. But Rupa Goswami did not offend this individual.
That may be so, but he's also showing an example. We have to be very careful. But this is a big topic, and you could go on and on with different examples, no doubt.
Yeah.
But there's some reason why the Lord manifests these pastimes. He doesn't need to manifest them in this world itself. They go on another platform, as we all know, as an uppercut lila. But on the platform of, let's say, where they're manifested to the vision of others, may not be on that high level of devotion. Either it's to attract us to him, Prabhupada said, why does Krishna perform so many pastimes? And he said, so we have something to think about. So you have something to remember. It may not be something you practically apply in terms of a lesson to be learned in our present circumstances, but it's actually a meditation for us to remember Krishna's pastimes. It's not that we enter into them, but we remember. Why has Prabhupada written it if he doesn't expect us to remember it? It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
He hasn't written it just for the sake of it. It doesn't need to, but it does have its purposeful purpose. Why Prabhupada has written Rasa Leela in Krishna book, for instance, so many places emphasizing these things. Now, another thing is about Draupadi and the derobing. It wouldn't be. Are you still there? Yeah. No.
Yes. Yes.
You moved. Oh, you moved boxes. Okay, you moved over to the right. Draupadi. It wouldn't be very exciting if her husbands had come forward and protected her, would it? I mean, it may have been very exciting, but it wouldn't have been very spiritual. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It would be
Yeah,
just
it's so blissful seeing Krishna producing, providing the saris. It's beautiful. So yes.
it's a nice meditation, you know, but taking shelter of Krishna. The way she took shelter of her husband's. Bhima got enraged, grabbed someone's club, smashed Karna with a club, you know, and Yudhishthira tried to pull them apart, and Bhishma was trying to reason with it all, and then he, you know, and Duryodhana's going bananas, and you know, the whole battle takes place in the middle of the court there. It wasn't meant to happen, was it? The Battle of Kurukshetra was meant to happen. The whole thing was meant to happen.
Yeah.
And this is a very much a major factor in the Battle of Kurukshetra.
Yeah.
And perhaps the most powerful catalyst of all, which caused the battle to evolve, which was fulfilling Krishna's intention. So, you know, this Krishna, sometimes you don't know why. Krishna's heart is making it happen.
All right, we have one hand up. If you may take. Oh, actually, there are two hands up. I took so much of your time. I'm sorry.
7 o'clock.
Srima Prabhu, please you may unmute.
But I'm supposed to give another class in half a second. I'm not joking. Make it quick.
My voice coming. My voice audible?
Oh no, Srima, you're breaking up. We cannot hear you.
Oh, okay. How is it now? Is it okay?
Yeah, it's better now.
All right. So thank you, Maharaj. Very nice. Thank you. Wonderful presentation. I just have a little comment to Sergeant Prabhu's recurrent question. I think there's a simple lesson to learn from the judges.
Your audio is breaking up, Srima. It's hard to hear you.
I'm driving, so I don't know. Is it okay? Coming?
Well, go ahead. If I can catch it, I'll pass it on to Maharaj.
Okay.
Now the Acharya speaking. We have to listen to the Acharya now.
Yeah. Yeah, Srima Prabhu, please, you may go ahead. Well, it seems his audio is not helping, but Govinda Prabhu, if you may take the advantage. Yeah.
I have to leave in a few seconds. I'm supposed to give a class in another temple, another building.
So, well, no, Maharaj, we cannot keep you here, depriving the others from your mercy. I mean,
keep the question, churn it, send it, do what you like with it.
Yeah, Maharaj. Well, thank you so much. The other devotees have to get your mercy too.
I don't know if there's anyone there or not, but we did say we were going to give a class at 7 o'clock, so I have to.
Yeah, it's time. So, Maharaj, sorry, our apologies. Dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute And we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation to His Holiness Janananda Swami Maharaj for giving us his valuable time and sharing his wisdom with us. Please, you may all unmute. Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Hare.
Hare.
Pancha Kalpatare Yascha, Kripasi Devacha, Kitana Pavanaya, Krishna Yoga. All glories to His Holiness Janananda Swami Maharaj Ki.
Jai,
All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All
Jai, Jai,
glories to Devotees Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Hare Krishna.